This tactic has been surprising, confusing for the opposition, and attacking. To be honest, these are characteristics I did not expect to find when I started to use it. Through its setup, it can attack on the counter when needed, or let the player set up in a positional play. When defending, the setup is a rigid one, having the potential to cover the spaces in the middle and forcing the opposition to attack only in the wide areas, which can be difficult if you have proper defenders. Using this tactic, in my save with Olympique Lyon, we scored 95 goals in Liga and 66 goals in the UEFA Conference League. However, and here is where you really need to pay attention when employing this tactic, my team did not have the best defense in any competition. Thus, we conceded 71 goals in Liga and 26 in the Conference League. The tactic has the potential to help your team score lots of goals, but if you don't have very good players in defense, you could concede a lot too. Valeriy Lobanovskyi was a Soviet and Ukrainian football player and manager. He is most famous for managing FC Dynamo Kiev and the USSR national football team. He established Dynamo as the most dominant club in Soviet football in the 1970s and 80s, winning the Soviet Top League 8 times and the Soviet Cup 6 times in 16 years. In 1975, his Dynamo Kiev team became the first side from the Soviet Union to win a major European trophy when they won against Ferencvaros in the final of the Cup Winners' Cup. During the tournament, Dynamo Kiev won 8 games out of 9, resulting in a winning percentage of 88%, a record that stood for 45 years for all the major European club football competitions. Him and his team repeated their Cup Winners' Cup success in 1986, beating Atletico Madrid in the final. In both 1975 and 1986, two of Dynamo's players, Oleg Blokhin and Igor Belanov, were also awarded the Ballon d'Or. During Lobanovskyi's first 2 times managing the Ukrainian team, they also reached the European Cup semi-finals in 1977 and 1987 and the quarter-finals in 1976, 1982 and 1983. Managing the Soviet Union national team, Lobanovskyi reached the finals of the Euro 1988, losing to Netherlands, and won the bronze medal at the 1976 Summer Olympic Games. After returning to Dynamo Kiev in 1997 for the 3rd time, he led the team to another successful run in a European competition. In the first full season of his 3rd spell, Dynamo reached the quarterfinals of the Champions League in 1998, topping a group that included FC Barcelona, Newcastle United and PSV Eindhoven, famously winning both games against Barcelona, 3-0 in Kiev and 4-0 at Camp Nou. FC Barcelona was managed by Louis van Gaal at the time. The following season, Lobanovskyi and his team reached the semi-finals of the competition, with the star Andriy Shevchenko finishing 3rd in the 1999 Ballon d'Or award poll. Throughout his coaching career, Lobanovskyi won 33 official trophies, becoming the 2nd most decorated manager of all time, behind Sir Alex Ferguson, and the most successful football manager of the 20th century. He also holds several managerial records in Soviet football, including most Soviet top league titles, most Soviet Cup wins, shared with Viktor Maslov, and most USSR Super Cup wins. Valeriy Lobanovskyi is the only football manager to win a major European competition with an Eastern European club twice. He is one of 4 managers to win the Cup Winners' Cup twice and one of 2, along with Nereo Rocco, to accomplish this feat with the same team. He also won the Ukrainian Championship 5 times out of 5, an accomplishment not matched by any other manager. Valeriy Lobanovskyi placed emphasis on the collective or the system. He said that a system does not guarantee success, but it gives a much better chance of success than making it up as you go along. He was a fan of meticulously planning each game, tailoring the training sessions according to each opposition. His playing style resembles the total football philosophy, and he is often regarded as this system's proponent in Eastern Europe. His players must learn to play each position, and tailoring the training sessions according to each opponent meant that the players learned different roles to counteract the opposition's gameplay. Lobanovskyi's preferred formation was the 4-1-3-2. All his teams utilized the talents of 2 strikers. In 1975, Oleg Blokhin and Volodymyr Onishenko. In 1986, Oleg Blokhin or Oleg Protasov and Igor Belanov, and in 1999, Andriy Shevchenko and Serhiy Rebrov. They were all highly versatile, being equally capable of shifting to the flanks, organizing attacks as playmakers, joining the midfield in defensive formations, and even dropping back to help the fullbacks during spells of opponent pressure. I found that a very useful work and representation of Valeriy Lobanovskyi's tactic in Football Manager is done by the user Enzo_Francescoli on the Sports Interactive forum. The link is in the description of this video. By the way, nice username. I went with a similar approach to the tactical setup, recreating the 4-1-3-2 formation through the roles used. For the first time in a long time, I used the goalkeeper on defend duty. I usually use a modern sweeper-keeper version and adjust it to the times of the tactic. The back four is made of 2 fullbacks on support duty and 2 central defenders on defend. You can play around with the fullbacks and choose the roles that suit your team best. I used multiple setups with both fullbacks and wingbacks, and for me, this one was the most balanced one. The fullbacks are asked to pass the ball shorter, cross more often and get further forward. The 2 central midfielders are the central one and the box-to-box one. The central one is on attack duty and is told to run from position and mark tighter. This is in a bid to emulate the player's movement in this tactic. I have seen this tactic being recreated using 2 central midfielder roles, one on support and one on attack. However, I chose the box-to-box midfielder one as I felt it balanced the setup more. As we still need to defend, this player remained at the back and anticipated counterattacks and only went up in the attack when the team controlled the game moment. As player instructions, we have dribble less and tackle harder. On the flanks, we have a winger on support on the right side and an inverted one on support on the left one. The winger is asked to cross from byline and run from position. Usually, this player went up and down his flank in Valeriy Lobanovskyi's tactic, and the run from position instruction is used to make sure the player drifts inside if the striker comes to play the ball in the wide area. The inverted winger is asked to mark tighter, and the strikers are a complete forward on attack duty and an advanced forward. In the original tactical setup, they are asked to stay wider, which I encourage you to do, to fully emulate the striker's movement in Lobanovskyi's tactic. However, if your strikers are not born goal scorers or world-class players, I found it very difficult to have a goal threat in any of them when I asked them to stay wider. Thus, in this version of the tactic, the instruction is not ticked on, so you can do it on your own accord. Also, using one trequartista role might also help with the player's movement up front. As mentality, I used positive and used attacking only when I felt we were dominating the game. In possession, fairly wide attacking width and play out of defense. Play out of defense is used more to keep the ball, as in Football Manager it feels like losing the ball too easily when it is kicked long by the goalkeeper. Standard or slightly shorter passing directness and a slightly higher tempo. Work the ball into the box and play for set pieces. Work the ball into the box is used to focus the players to attack the goal, but if you think it's unnecessary, you can tick it off. In transition, counter press, counter, and distribute the ball to the defense through short kicks. Again, to maintain possession of the ball. Out of possession, a high press and a standard defensive line. Trigger press more often, trap outside, and invite crosses. Invite crosses was used to keep the defenders around our box when defending. With it ticked off, the wide players tended to break the shape of the formation and to close down the wide attacking players. Using this tactic, we finished 4th in Liga and runners-up in the UEFA Conference League. This tactic was a very fun one to research and to use. Thank you to the person who suggested this tactic to me. There are countless recreations of it around and they all play differently. Just make sure you find and use the right one for you. Valeriy Lobanovskyi was a visionary at the time and a man who shaped, at least Eastern European football, forever. The awards and decorations he received are a small token of his influence on football as a whole. I'm sorry I did not get to witness his teams playing football, but his legacy will forever inspire football managers around the world.